am. So let's talk a little bit about the Daily Leader. I could talk about and introduce what I think the Daily Leader is, but since you're here, I think you guys should tell us what the Daily Leader podcast is, maybe where it is now, and then just a little bit of where you hope that it will go in this next year.
I mean, what the Daily Leader has been is in-depth conversations about leadership, focusing on, kind of our core values of curiosity, community, competence, and clarity. I mean, that on the basic level, that's really what it is. Brad and I set out with a mission of going, actually, we kind of said, who the heck would listen to us? Like, why would you ever tune into us? But we know a lot of people that have led us on our journeys. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what it would be like to bring them on and listen to them and hear their wisdom and how they've gotten to where they are. So season 1, if anybody goes back and listens, some just fantastic interviews with some incredible CEOs, entrepreneurs, people that are running their own, ministries and have for 40 years, some people that are starting brand new businesses, kind of a whole big gamut of, just a wide spectrum of people that we've brought on. So that has been who we are. And I think turning to 2025, man, a lot of the same and a lot more different. Like, I think Brad and I would both say our core values are really who we are. I love, I think it's, did you watch Ted Lasso, Nikki? Are you a Ted Lasso person?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. I love Ted Lasso. Scott and I both did.
It took me a year and a half.
It took us a while. Yeah, we didn't start it until later, and then we flew through every episode. Loved it.
Brad gives me a hard time every day.
It's so good.
About my choices, because he's like, it's just like that one show you recommended that was terrible, Taylor. But
I'm with you.
Ted in one of my favorite scenes. He actually wrote the scene, I think the language for it, with Brene Brown, and he's playing darts. He's throwing darts, and the guy, kind of the evil dude, the owner of the team, or the old owner, he kind of misses the whole boat that Ted actually is really good at darts, and it's because he didn't stay curious. And at one point he says, hey, there's a quote by Walt Whitman that changed a lot for him, and it said, "Stay curious and not judgmental." And that for me has been super, super challenging and encouraging, to just stay curious about different people and different ways that they lead different companies, cultures, teams, nonprofits, organizations, whatever it is. And so my hope for 2025 is really a lot more of that. And I am a pretty spontaneous person that likes to try different things. I'm actually not that spontaneous when it comes to, like, I like my consistency, but when we're like running the podcast, I'll often be like, Brad, I think we should try something new. And so I'm excited to try some new things. So, and we also, to be fair, we have a plan, hey, we've got our planning meeting coming up where we're going to really dive into more of the nuts and bolts and specifics about what that looks like. But I love interviewing people because I get really tired of my own voice and Brad's, and I hear plenty of that. So anyways, Brad, that's a lot of talking. I don't know. What are your thoughts? What did I miss?
Yeah, no, great on kind of vision, mission, values. I think all of that will remain true. And I can see us maturing the way that we talk about what we do over time and clarifying it a little bit more. I think we have a lot of clarity for year one. And I think that we've stuck to our purpose pretty tightly. The big change that we made late last fall was really wanting to invite people to a deeper level of community, and recognizing that, like, while we're encouraging people to participate in community, whether that's their local community, the community of their work, their family, however you interpret that, we weren't creating an opportunity for them to do it the way that we really wanted to. And Taylor and I were running and are running independent consultancies that don't, have overlap between clients. I don't even know the names of all of Taylor's clients, and vice versa, right? Let alone, exactly how he's serving them. And just because time constraints, we just don't know. We run our different businesses, right? But we wanted an opportunity to work together with clients and to bring, our individual superpowers together. And so we built a community and are building the community because it's still pretty much alpha beta form, where we'll be able to move our listeners from these sort of anonymous ears, wherever they're listening in the world, to a place where they can have, kind of a home digitally, and we can engage them at a much deeper level. And they can go so far as to do coaching with us. They can do relationship building with one another, and plenty of courses and online content that'll be available to them. That'll be original to us, or stuff that we've co-created with some of our guests. And so I think in time, throughout 2025 and into early 2026, we'll have a lot more clarity on what that's going to look like. But yeah, we're trying to do more than just the podcast. And then one final thought that I think is worth sharing is just like the point that Taylor's making about a variety of voices, I think is a really important aspect of clarity, which is our last value. And this value, like if one were going to get chopped off, like this might be the one that you would expect, right? Because it's like, what's that last C doing down there? Do we really need it? If Shane Kuiper, our friend Shane Kuiper, were here, he'd say, you don't need that. If you've got 4, you've got none, right? But, for us as leaders, like clarity means that we can all see something, right? That we can all understand something, that we can all grasp it. And so when we have a variety of voices and a diversity of voices, like we actually create more clarity, and we bring a more clear picture into focus for someone who's trying to understand what leadership is and how it functions. Because at the end of the day, Nikki and Taylor and Brad will all lead contextually. Like we'll lead as me.
Right.
And I can't lead the way Taylor does, and I can't lead the way Nikki does, but I can do a really good job or a really poor job at leading the way that Brad does. And so what we want to help people see is that lived out and expressed. Like the daily leader is not Brad and Taylor telling you how you should lead. It's giving you examples of how many people lead in many contexts for you to learn from in order that you might lead your way better. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we'll continue to really be devoted to bringing a diversity of voices into the conversations that we're having, because it really does serve to create deeper levels of clarity for people, because they're hearing similar things from different people.
Well, that's why I'm excited to have you guys here specifically, because when you think about even the context of this audience, the More with Nikki Dutton audience, I'm so lucky that I've had some of these. They're mostly my friends, okay? But most of them that have been listening, some of them have been here since the very beginning, since October 2020. And then, it grows and you start to pull more people in, and then you start to meet people that you don't have any overlapping circles with, but somehow they found this show and they find some sense of belonging here, some sense of resonance. When they hear my stories or guest stories, they can see themselves in those places. And why I was excited to have you guys here today is because I think sometimes my audience at first glance may not know if they see themselves in the Daily Leader, because you guys have these people who have these huge companies and do all these things and can sometimes be a very specific type of driven leader. But something that I know all three of us believe in is that leadership is happening with everyone in your context, whether you intend or not. Like there is leadership that is happening, and it may be good leadership, it may be bad leadership. We're all receiving leadership in some form or fashion. But then I would say that I would argue that all of us actually have opportunities to lead as well. If that's in our families with our, mom, dad, brother, sister, if it's in our families, a lot of the audience that listens to this show, their families are growing, they're having kids for the first time. Or I know a lot of the listeners on this show also are working on teams and in churches and in marketing firms and places.